So this is a brand new supplement to the opera. I'm not going to be doing any singing, or very little, as I share this with you. It's a prelude story based on information I've gleaned from reading other Eiseley essays, including autobiographical ones, about a very early memory, precious to him, of time spent with his father. And as I have written it here, it also takes place on Loren's birthday, his 8th birthday. So I will read this to you now. It's entitled Prelude, Comet and Stars, A Memory of My Father. When Loren Eiseley was a boy, one day stood out for him above all others. It was the day the comet came, the day his father took him into the night to see a blaze of light that stretched across the sky with a fiery tail brighter than the brightest star. The year was 1910, and Loren was not quite 3, and so probably rode on his father's shoulders for most of the trek into the fields surrounding their Nebraska prairie home. Loren's father was a hardware salesman and worked long hours for little pay. But he was also a lover of Shakespeare and an amateur actor who passed on to his son his love for beautiful language and fine writing. On this night, however, Loren's father had a different goal. He wanted young Loren to see Halley's Comet, to see it and remember it for years to come. Loren wrote about this night later in his life, when he had become a famous writer, as one of his favorite memories of all time. I'd be willing to bet that for a whole string of years after it happened, Loren and his father would talk together about it and maybe even reenact it from time to time by visiting the spot where it all took place, remembering the feel of it, the green sweetness of the evening spring air, and the awe and wonder of a night aglow with mystery, and a fiery messenger come to visit their Nebraska sky. I can see Loren, now age 8, running up the hill ahead of his father saying, "Is this the place, Father? The place where we saw the comet?" "Yes, Loren, this is the place, and I will be there in just a minute. My legs are not as young as yours." Loren runs in a circle and gallops like a young horse. He is 8 years old today, and his father, as he catches up, Loren reaches for his hand and brings him to a spot he has marked with an X. Loren stands on the X and points upward into the night, saying, "It was right there, wasn't it, Father, with a big blazing tail like a fiery horse galloping through the heavens? Tell me the story. Tell me again when I was 3 and we saw the comet." Loren's father nods and smiles. "Loren, you have a wonderful mind, and one day you will be a great astronomer like Galileo." The stars were a second home for him. He searched the heavens for other planets and even saw the moons of Jupiter through his little telescope. Then, speaking more slowly, he says, "But gazing at the stars, Loren, is also a medicine for the heart. You must look and let yourself dream, as Shakespeare did, dream and ponder and remember." "I am dreaming, Father," said Loren, "and pondering too, but I want you to remember the story of the comet, when I was 3 and you put me up on your shoulders so I could try to touch it with my fingers." Loren wiggles his fingers up to the stars. "You are right, my boy, that's exactly what I did, and your little fingers twinkled as brightly as the stars themselves." "The comet's name was—" "Halley's Comet," interrupts Loren, "after the astronomer Edmund Halley, who discovered it and figured out when it would come back." "That's good, Loren. And when will it come back so you can see it again?" Well, the encyclopedia said it comes back every 75 or 76 years. I'll be really old. Well, I pray you'll make it, and you'll think back and remember the first time you saw it with me right here. He pauses for a moment, then continues. You know, people used to think that stars and comets controlled your luck, or how good or how bad you turn out to be. They would say, thank your lucky stars if something good happened, and blame the stars when things went differently from their own liking. Then, lifting his voice to speak with a special reverence, he said, it is not in the stars to hold our destiny, Loren, but in ourselves. Is that your friend, Mr. Shakespeare, Father? Yes, my boy, Mr. Shakespeare indeed. And you know what else he said? And I'm sure he must have been thinking of a boy just like you. He said, turn him into stars and form a constellation of his image. His face will make the heavens so beautiful that the world will fall in love with the night and forget about the garish sun. And he reaches for Loren, tickling his ribs, and makes him laugh. The two stargazers settle down together in the grass and peer quietly into the heavens as their thoughts carry them upward. From time to time, one or the other points to a particular star or constellation of stars, and you can barely hear their subdued voices as they nod and lean into one another comfortably, with an occasional wiggle of excitement from Loren's fast-running legs. After a few minutes, Loren's father says warmly, time to head back, Loren. Your mother will be worried, and we don't want to upset her. But Father, I've been wondering, do you think old Mr. Shakespeare or old Galileo knew how the stars and comets got flung up there in the first place? Flinging stars and comets everywhere in the universe must have been hard work, even for, well, you know, God. Hard work for sure, Loren, but maybe fun too. I like that, says Loren. And in a flash, Loren is up on his feet, galloping ahead of his father, who pauses for a moment to look upwards once more and all around him. And in a quiet voice, with arms upstretched, he sings, "O stars, O stars, and holding that upward gesture as his voice tapers to starlit silence, he appears to be completing a prayer quietly to himself. Finally, looking earthward and to the horizon, he lowers his arms and says firmly, the fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Just then, Loren's voice can be heard. Hurry up, Father, I can see the light from our house. I am almost home.
Thank you, John. It's interesting to think of Loren as so much of his writing, he portrays his childhood as rather unhappy, and it's nice to see a portrayal of him having a happy time in his. I think in his memoirs he dwelled on those rather unhappy periods. Yeah,
but this one was a happy day.
Yes.